Debir Hayamim Bet, or 2nd Chronicles chapter 28. Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. And he did not do what was right in the eyes of Jehovah as his father David had done, and walked in the ways of the sovereigns of Israel, and made molded images for the Baals. And he himself burned incense in the valley of the son of Hinnom, and burned his children in the fire, according to the abominations of the nations whom Jehovah dispossessed from before the children of Israel, and slaughtered and burned incense on the high places and on the hills and under every green tree. Therefore Jehovah his Elohim gave him into the hand of the sovereign of Aram, and they struck him, and took many of them away as captives, and brought them to Darmasek. And he was also given into the hand of the sovereign of Israel, who struck him with a great slaughter. And Pekah, son of Ramalyahu, killed 120,000 in Yehudah in one day, all brave men, because they had forsaken Jehovah Elohim of their fathers. And Zikri, a mighty man of Ephraim, killed Maasayahu, son of the sovereign, and Azrikam, the officer over the house, and Elkanah, who was second to the sovereign. And the children of Israel took captive from their brothers 200,000 women, sons, and daughters. And they also seized from them much spoil, and they brought the spoil to Shomeron. But a prophet of Jehovah was there, whose name was Oded. And he went out before the army that came to Shomeron, and said to them, See, because Jehovah Elohim of your fathers was displeased with Yehudah, he has given them into your hand, and you've killed them in a rage that reaches up to the heavens. And now you're planning to make the children of Yehudah and Jerusalem your male and female slaves? But are you not also guilty before Jehovah your Elohim? Now therefore listen to me, and return the captives whom you've taken captive from your brothers, for the heat of the wrath of Jehovah is upon you. And some of the heads of the children of Ephraim, Azaryahu, son of Johanan, Barakyahu, son of Mishelmoth, and Yehezkiyahu, son of Shallum, and Amasa, son of Hadlai, stood up against those who came from the army, and said to them, Do not bring the captives here to bring on us guilt before Jehovah. Are you planning to add to our sins and to our guilt? For our guilt is great, and burning is the wrath on Israel. And the armed men left the captives and the spoil before the leaders and all the assembly. And the men who were designated by name rose up and took the captives, and from the spoil they put on all the naked among them, dressed them, gave them sandals, gave them food and drink, and anointed them, and let all the weak ones ride on donkeys, and brought them to their brothers at Jericho, the city of palm trees, then returned to Shomeron. At that time, sovereign Ahaz sent to the sovereigns of Asher to help him, for the Edomites had come again and struck Yehudah and took away captives. And the Philistines invaded the cities of the low country and of the south of Yehudah, and captured Beth Shemesh, and Ayalon, and Gederoth, and Socoh with its villages, and Timnah with its villages, and Gimzo with its villages, and dwelt there. For Jehovah had brought Yehudah low because of Ahaz, sovereign of Israel, for he brought about a lack of restraint in Yehudah, and trespassed against Jehovah. And Tiglath-Pileser, the sovereign of Asher, came against him, and distressed him, and did not strengthen him. Though Ahaz had taken some of the treasures from the house of Jehovah, from the house of the sovereign, and from the leaders, and he gave it to the sovereign of Asher, but he did not help him. And in the time of his distress, sovereign Ahaz trespassed even more against Yehovah, this sovereign Ahaz, and he slaughtered to the mighty ones of Damasek, those striking him, saying, because the mighty ones of the sovereigns of Aram help them, I slaughter to them, and they help me. But they were to cause him and all Israel to stumble. And Ahaz gathered the utensils of the house of Elohim and cut in pieces the utensils of the house of Elohim and shut the doors of the house of Yehovah and made for himself slaughter places in every corner of Jerusalem. And in every city, even in the cities of Yehuda, he made high places to burn incense to other mighty ones and provoked Yehovah Elohim of his fathers. And the rest of his acts and all his ways from first to last, see, they're written in the book of the sovereigns of Yehuda and Israel. So Ahaz slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city, in Jerusalem, but they did not bring him into the burial sites of the sovereigns of Israel. And Hizkiyahu, his son, reigned in his place. Melachim Bet, or 2 Kings, chapter 16. In the 17th year of Pekah, son of Remaliahu, Ahaz, son of Jotham, sovereign of Yehuda, began to reign. Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, and he did not do what was right in the eyes of Yehovah, his Elohim, as his father David had done. But he walked in the way of the sovereigns of Israel, and he also made his son pass through the fire, according to the abominations of the nations whom Yehovah had dispossessed from before the children of Israel. And he slaughtered and burned incense on the high places and on the hills and under every green tree. Then Retzin, sovereign of Aram, and Pekah, son of Remaliahu, sovereign of Israel, came up to Jerusalem to battle. And they besieged Ahaz, but were unable to overcome him. At that time, Retzin, sovereign of Aram, recovered Eilath for Aram, and drove the men of Yehuda from Eilath. And the Edomites went to Eilath, and have dwelt there to this day. And Ahaz sent messengers to Tiglath-Pileser, sovereign of Ashur, saying, I am your servant and your son. Come up and save me from the hand of the sovereign of Aram and from the hand of the sovereign of Israel, who are rising up against me. And Ahaz took the silver and gold that was found in the house of Yehovah and in the treasuries of the house of the sovereign, and sent it as a present to the sovereign of Ashur. And the sovereign of Ashur listened to him. And the sovereign of Ashur went up against Damasek, captured it, and exiled it to Kor, and he killed Retzin. And sovereign Ahaz went to meet Tiglath-Pileser, sovereign of Ashur, at Damasek, and saw a slaughter place that was at Damasek. And sovereign Ahaz sent to Uriah the priest a sketch of the slaughter place and its pattern according to all its workmanship. And Uriah the priest built a slaughter place according to all that sovereign Ahaz had sent from Damasek. And Uriah the priest made it before sovereign Ahaz came from Damasek. And when the sovereign came from Damasek, the sovereign saw the slaughter place, and the sovereign approached the slaughter place and made offerings on it. And he burned his ascending offerings and his grain offering, and he poured his drink offering, and sprinkled the blood of his peace offering on the slaughter place. And the bronze slaughter place, which was before Yehovah, he brought from the front of the house, from between the new slaughter place and the house of Yehovah, and put it on the north side of his slaughter place. And sovereign Ahaz commanded Uriah the priest, saying, on the great slaughter place burn the morning ascending offering, and the evening grain offering, and the sovereign's ascending offering, and his grain offering, with the ascending offering of all the people of the land, and their grain offering, and their drink offering, and sprinkle on it all the blood of the ascending offering, and all the blood of the slaughtering, and the bronze slaughter place is for me to inquire by. And Uriah the priest did according to all that sovereign Ahaz commanded. And sovereign Ahaz cut off the side panels of the stands and removed the basins from them. And he took down the sea from the bronze oxen that were under it and put it on a pavement of stones. And the covered way which they had built in the house for the Sabbath and the sovereign's outer entrance, he took from the house of Yehovah because of the sovereign of Asher. And the rest of the acts of Ahaz which he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yehuda? So Ahaz slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David. And Hizkiyahu, his son, reigned in his place. Chapter 17. In the 12th year of Ahaz, sovereign of Yehuda, Hoshea, son of Elah, began to reign over Israel and Shomeron for 9 years. And he did evil in the eyes of Yehovah, but not as the sovereigns of Israel who were before him. Shalmaneser, sovereign of Asher, came up against him, and Hoshea became his servant and rendered him a present. But the sovereign of Asher found a conspiracy in Hoshea, for he had sent messengers to So, sovereign of Mitzrayim, and had not brought a present to the sovereign of Asher as year by year. And the sovereign of Asher shut him up and bound him in prison. And the sovereign of Asher went through all the land and went up to Shomeron and besieged it for 3 years. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the sovereign of Asher captured Shomeron and exiled Israel to Asher and settled them in Halah and Habor, the river of Gozan, and in the cities of the Medes. Now, this came to be because the children of Israel had sinned against Yehovah their Elohim, who had brought them up out of the land of Mitzrayim from under the hand of Pharaoh, sovereign of Mitzrayim, and feared other mighty ones, and walked in the laws of the nations whom Yehovah had dispossessed from before the children of Israel, and of the sovereigns of Israel that they had made. And the children of Israel secretly did against Yehovah their Elohim matters that were not right. And they built for themselves high places in all their cities, from watchtower unto walled city, and set up for themselves pillars and asherim on every high hill and under every green tree, and burned incense there on all the high places, like the nations whom Yehovah had removed from their presence. And they did evil matters to provoke Yehovah, and served the idols of which Yehovah had said to them, "Do not do this." And Yehovah had warned Israel and Yehuda through all of his prophets and every seer, saying, "Turn back from your evil ways and guard my commands and my laws, according to all the Torah which I commanded your father, and which I sent to you by my servants the prophets." But they did not listen and hardened their necks like the necks of their fathers, who did not put their trust in Yehovah their Elohim, and rejected his laws and his covenant that he had made with their fathers, and his witnesses which he had witnessed against them, and went after worthlessness, and became worthless, and after all the nations who were all around them, of whom Yehovah had commanded them not to do like them. And they left all the commands of Yehovah their Elohim, and made for themselves a molded image, 2 calves, and made an Asherah, and bowed themselves to all the host of the heavens, and served Baal, and caused their sons and daughters to pass through the fire, and practiced divination and sorcery, and sold themselves to do evil in the eyes of Yehovah to provoke him. So Yehovah was very enraged with Israel and removed them from his presence. None was left but the tribe of Yehuda alone. Yehuda also did not guard the commands of Yehovah their Elohim, but walked in the laws of Israel which they made. And Yehovah rejected all the seed of Israel and afflicted them and gave them into the hand of plunderers until he had cast them out from his presence. For he tore Israel from the house of David, and they made Jeroboam, son of Nebat, sovereign. And Jeroboam drove Israel from following Yehovah and made them commit a great sin. And the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam which he did. They did not turn away from them until Yehovah removed Israel from his presence, as he spoke by all his servants the prophets. So Israel was exiled from their land to Ashur, as it is to this day. And the sovereign of Ashur brought people from Babel, and from Cuthah, and from Avwa, and from Hamath, and Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Shomeron instead of the children of Israel. And they took possession of Shomeron and dwelt in its cities. And it came to be at the beginning of their dwelling there that they did not fear Yehovah, and Yehovah sent lions among them, which were killing among them. And they spoke to the sovereign of Ashur, saying, the nations whom you have removed and placed in the cities of Shomeron do not know the right ruling of the Elohim of the land. And he has sent lions among them, and see, they're slaying among them because they do not know the right ruling of the Elohim of the land. And the sovereign of Ashur commanded, saying, send one of the priests whom you exiled from there to go there. Let him go and dwell there, and let him teach the right ruling of the Elohim of the land. And one of the priests whom they had exiled from Shomeron came and dwelt in Bethel and taught them how to fear Yehovah. But every nation was making mighty ones of its own and put them in the houses of the high places which the Shomeronim had made, every nation in the cities where they dwelt. And the men of Babel made Sukkot Benoth, and the men of Cuth made Nergal, and the men of Hamath made Ashima, and the Alvites made Nibhaz and Tartak, and the Sepharvites burned their children in fire to Adremelech and Anamelech, the mighty ones of Sepharim. They also feared Yehovah, and from every class they made for themselves priests of the high places who offered for them in the house of the high places. They were fearing Yehovah, and they were serving their own mighty ones, according to the ruling of the nations from among whom they've been exiled. To this day they're doing according to the former rulings. They're not fearing Yehovah, nor do they follow their laws or their right rulings or the Torah and command which Yehovah commanded the children of Yaakov, whose name he made Israel, with whom Yehovah had made a covenant and commanded them, saying, do not fear other mighty ones, nor bow down to them, nor serve them, nor slaughter to them, but Yehovah, who brought you up from the land of Mitzrayim with great power and with an outstretched arm. Him you shall fear, and to him you shall bow yourselves, and to him you shall slaughter, and guard to do forever the laws and the right rulings and the Torah and the command he wrote for you. And do not fear other mighty ones, and do not forget the covenant that I've made with you, and do not fear other mighty ones, but fear your Elohim, so that he delivers you from the hand of all your enemies. And they did not obey, but did according to their former ruling. So these nations were fearing Yehovah and served their carved images, both their children and their children's children, as their fathers did, as they're doing to this day.